rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, depending upon where you are at and who you are voting for, tonight may be happy or sad, because there's a lot of things going on. But let's just remember, folks, the morons do exist. They are out there. And trust me, I've ran across a few of them. There's one on Facebook right now who's trying to, of course, tell me about and trying to say that, you know, America as a racist country was founded in slavery, that the Constitution was founded in slavery, rather than the opposite, the Constitution being, you know, the vehicle that created the opportunity to get rid of slavery in the United States. But anyway, and of course they put forth the lies that ICE is going after people of color, and that they, you know, I mean, you could just throw in whatever leftist trope you want to throw in there, and that pretty much is what this individual is attempting to do. So, yeah. Anyway, and even though at first I didn't recognize that they were necessarily a leftist moron. So, they were sitting there and started an interesting conversation. And so I was inclined to, of course, correct them on a few things. You know, they were talking about how slavery was abolished by countries prior to America. And while Great Britain did abolish slavery in entirety before America, we came in second. And so that's part of the reason what they're talking about. He's like, well, the French abolished slavery. Well, yeah, they did. But then Napoleon put it back in play. So no, the French did not completely abolish slavery before the United States. And Spain abolished it. Yes, they abolished it in certain locales. What I'm talking about is the complete 100% abolishment of slavery, the slave trade, everything. Just got rid of the entire thing, carte blanche. And for that, it was Great Britain first, and then, of course, the U.S. All these other locations were either previous in terms of governments or whatever, previous to what is currently today and no longer exist or whatever. I mean, you could go through whatever kind of thing you want. The point is, though, is that, yeah, slavery was abolished in the United States as the second major Western country, or Western country in particular, to do so, because slavery does still exist in the world. And also that the Constitution was, and the ideas enshrined, the principles and values of America enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, for the beginning, was the instigator for the country to head down the road of abolishing slavery. So even though, you know, he tried to point out, oh, the Electoral College was a slave thing. No, the Electoral College was not. The 3/5 clause was, but the Electoral College was not. The Electoral College is not tied to slavery. These people, they need to go back to actual civics class and understand what's going on. And even if they went to civics class today, they're going to be taught a whole bunch of crap. Anyway. Okay, it looks like we've got some early results potentially. The Virginia governor's race is being called for Abigail Spanberger or Spamberger, whatever her name is. Mickey Sherrill apparently leads in New Jersey in the governor's race as the polls are closing. So Virginia was called by Fox News. And we know what happens when Fox News calls things. Yeah, they're assuming they're making educated guesses based off of the polling results. So don't take any of that necessarily for it. So just keep in mind that there will be true ups and so on and so forth. We won't actually know the final results until at least tomorrow, if not farther than that. So all of those kinds of things are going on right now as we speak. And that's part of the reason why I'm not running like a ticker or anything like that, because it's going to be a while. So just, and keep in mind that's expected. I mean, we can't win them all. And I fully expect, believe it or not, that, Prop 50 is more than likely going to pass, because that's California idiots down there that are going to be doing that. So I fully think that one's going to pass. But anyway, okay, let's go ahead and get things kicked off here. Tonight, I believe Bonnie is up for the Pledge of Allegiance. So sorry, give me just a second here. I'm turning on a switch. I got to get something going here a little bit. Yeah. All right. Bonnie, I believe, is up. So let's go ahead. If you are of mine, please stand, remove your hats. If you're wearing one like me, place your hand over your heart and follow along with Bonnie as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And of course, I thank you for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and send it off to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation order. Also, don't forget, I am looking for numbers 21 and 22. Yep, 21 and 22. Before I forget, and before I do the headline sponsor as well, we are going to try again with Becky. Well, hopefully this time it'll work out, but we're going to try again for tomorrow for that discussion that we were going to have last Saturday, and things just didn't work out. So hopefully things will work out. You got to come back for tomorrow night for Whiskey Wednesday, and we're going to have that conversation. And we're going to give that a good go. So if you are definitely interested in wanting to hear about the topic from a insider's point of view, then I would tune in tomorrow for that interview and discussion. All right, let's go ahead and talk about our headline sponsor, who is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Side note, the Institute on the Constitution just updated their website, and I've confirmed that these links, like the IOTC at .americanperspective.online, does work. And I had to correct this next one, which is, if you want this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Let's take a look at this wonderful thing. The 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. Look at the inside. Yes, this is stitching, not cheap glue, folks. It goes all the way through the leather and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a challenge with this thing, you can send it back to the manufacturer, and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is, rest in peace, my friend, Buddy tested, Buddy approved. Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you to study for your civics exam, or your civics badge in scouting, I should say, or your civics exam in school. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online, get yours today. And by the way, make sure that you order these soon if you're planning on sticking them in the stockings of all of your family members. It's a great gift, long-time gift, and because of that 100-year warranty, you can pass it down for a generation or 2 or 3 or whatever. And it is a fantastic stocking stuffer. So go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. And of course, don't forget to check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings, as they are fantastic. Pick something up for yourself or, friends or whatever, and make sure that you go and check them out. I thank them for allowing me to be a brand affiliate. All right. So, well, the Schumer shutdown is going to make history. That's right. Senate Democrats blocked once again, the opportunity to reopen the government for a 14th time. But that doesn't make it the history breaking. What does make the history break is that the previous shutdown record was set in 2019 at 35 days. So now that they have voted to not open the government, they essentially are now guaranteeing that this will be the longest in history, 35 days of being shut down. And it's all but ensured that it will surpass that unfortunate milestone later this evening. Of course, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Chucky Boy, and his Democratic caucus are still largely entrenched in their position that unless there is an ironclad deal regarding expiring Obamacare subsidies, they will not reopen the government. During a speech on the Senate floor today, Schumer squarely placed the blame for the health care issue on Republicans and President Donald Trump, which, I can't quite figure this out because they had the votes to do so in and during the last administration. So I'm still trying to figure out, and all they did was they just extended it for like another year or whatever. And I don't understand. I don't get this. They could have, because of the extended, they could have just said, look, we're going to make these things permanent and put them into law. And they didn't do that. So, yeah. Yep. Chuckles. Chuckles is trying to make things a little bit funny, but no, he's not making anything funny. So anyway, he's like, the only plan Republicans have for health care seems to be to eliminate it and then tell working people to go figure it out on their own. That's not a health care plan. That's cruel. Well, Chucky, as I told you last night, and seriously, you should go back and listen to last night's episode if you missed it, because I go through a very clear walkthrough of why these idiots are extending unconstitutionally all of these government programs, whether it's healthcare, SNAP, Social Security, all of these other programs that are going on, Obamacare or the ACA, this is what they're fighting over. All of that stuff has nothing to do with the federal government, and I walked you through it with the Federalist Papers, the intent of the federal government, the fact that all of the items that the federal government is supposed to do are enumerated in the Constitution. And I pointed you right to the section where it was. It's Article 1, Section 8. And you can walk through all of that. You can listen to that episode. Last night's episode is I'm not going to necessarily call it a masterclass, but it's pretty damn close to a masterclass in what the federal government is allowed to do and not allowed to do. So even goes and covers the 10th Amendment, the most unused amendment, I think, that it should be used. It should be used all the time. But anyway, so, his caucus's resolve showed signs of weakening on Monday when a group of nearly a dozen Democrats met behind closed doors to discuss a way out, which is kind of interesting. I mean, they could have jumped ship and passed the continuing CR today, but apparently that didn't work out. So, yeah. Now, keep in mind, the Democrats are holding SNAP benefits hostage. Yes, they are. They're holding it. Well, or at least they thought they were. Until yesterday, when the administration said, yeah, we're going to partially fund SNAP. Well, that's changed. And we're going to find out what happens when the White House... We're going to find out what happens when the White House defies a judicial order from a federal judge in Rhode Island who literally has no constitutional capability of ordering the president to do anything. Here we go, folks. This is going to be a wake-up call for constitutionality of a lot of this crap. Trump has now said that he is not going to do anything with the SNAP benefits. He's now drawn a line in the sand, and I think part of this is because of the fact that, again, Chuck Schumer is decided that, I'm not gonna fund anything, and so I think this is basically a game of chicken. We're gonna see who's gonna end up blinking first. I'm almost certain it's not going to be Trump, but Trump says no to SNAP. And he also followed on saying this is all on the Democrats, which is true. It is. And he says we won't budge. That's right. He said on Tuesday that the delay in the SNAP benefits will continue until the Senate Democrats reopen the government. Now, he called out that SNAP benefits have increased in Joe Biden's administration. And granted, they bumped up during COVID. That's where it came from. Okay, but I mean, they didn't go down after COVID. They stayed. So it went from like 21 to 42 million Americans on SNAP benefits. And it wasn't like because COVID went away and people opened back up and people got jobs and so on and so forth that they started and went, back down. So, yeah. Anyway, this is going to go to the courts. This is going to be appealed. This is going to be et cetera, et cetera. Frankly, I think the federal government, or at least Trump, should just point out, I don't understand why these people don't use this, but they should just point out and go, you know what, folks, we're going to draw a line in the sand, but here's the line. This is a 10th Amendment issue, and this is no longer a problem for the federal government. Congress has put this in for whatever reason, and yeah. That's what me personally, that would be the tact that I would think would be taken. But anyway. So, yeah. By the way, Trump's message, of course, is saying that this is a one day after the administration said that it would dip into the emergency funds, although in that court filing that it sent saying that, hey, we'll partially fund it, in the court filing, it said it could take a few weeks up to several months to get that process taken care of. So, yeah, realistically, the best way out of this, honestly, the best way out of this is for the Democrats to just fold and realize the Senate Democrats should just fold and realize that they got painted into a corner. And, yeah. So we're going to have to see, but I honestly don't think that Trump is necessarily going to blink here. And I think he actually does have a leg to stand on. I think he's got a few legs to stand on to basically say that because the part about the using the contingency funds were set up. The contingency funds were set up specifically for things like a hurricane. They were not designed or specifically by Congress said, hey, you know what? You can use this under any circumstance whenever the government's shut down or if you've got a shortage or no, they specifically wrote in there that it would be used for extenuating circumstances, emergency use only. This is not necessarily extenuating circumstances under their belief system. I mean, and they wrote in too, the USDA person, Brooke Rollins, Secretary Rollins, said on Sunday that they can't do anything. The extenuating circumstances and the use of the emergency funds is contingent on the underlying program being funded. And if the underlying program is not funded, you cannot use those contingency funds. And that's pretty much the explanation. So again, Congress has tied its own hands here. I've said this, that Trump actually is one of the most constitutional law-following, this secondary round, he's the most constitutional law-following president that we've had of the last three. Okay? And so this kind of setup and the way that this is, the way this is showing down, it's basically Congress against Congress, meaning the previous Congress against this Congress or the whatever Congress that created this program against Congress, because these are the Senate Democrats who are pretty much, all they would have had to do was just say, look, fund the government until November 21st under the exact same, outlays and everything else. Everything stays the same. There was nothing special about the CR. Nothing special whatsoever. And they went ahead and they were just like, hey, you know what? We're just going to fund the government for the 21 days. We're going to fight our fight about all of this other stuff, the health care and everything else, which, again, keep in mind, the healthcare subsidies do not end until the end of the calendar year. they still have what's left of November and part of December to argue over those subsidies. See, this is why this is all crazy. This is why all of this is nuts. Okay? This is all crazy and nuts. They shouldn't even be doing any of this. Not to mention the fact that there are a lot of things like fraud, waste, and abuse that's going on under the SNAP program. For an example, and Mrs. Whiskey was asking me this question. She's like, well, how is it that these people can use these EBT cards to go and get their nails done or whatever? They don't actually use the EBT card for that. What they do is they sell the EBT card, or they sell the amount on the EBT card for cash. And that's what they use, which again is waste, fraud, and abuse, because that's not your money. That is for you because you qualify to get food. That is not for you to hand over to somebody else in exchange for cash. That's not how this works. Okay? Now, all of that would be irrelevant, honestly, if it weren't for the fact that the Congress has exceeded its constitutional boundaries and put in these programs in the first place. Yeah. So, anyway. Also, too, don't forget that they are, the government or the administration is actually asking for all of the states to send in their SNAP data to make absolutely certain that there's no illegal aliens getting benefits that are meant for American families. And 29 states went ahead and did it like they are supposed to. Okay. 21 blue states refused and went ahead and sued just because the administration asked. Now, keep in mind that in the states that have cooperated, the USDA has already found and uncovered massive fraud with this thing. Folks, I mean, let's just face it. There is nothing that the government can stick their finger in and not screw up. Okay? That's just it. It is not going to happen. All right? So, yeah. These people. I just got to tell you, these people. Well, there's a report out, and here's part of the waste, fraud, and abuse, too, by the way. There's a report out now that apparently nearly half of non-citizens' homes. Now, this is where we tie into birthright citizenship that is a bit of a problem, okay? Because you have all of these illegal aliens crossing the border with the idea that they can just drop a baby here and that baby will become a U.S. citizen, making sure that they end up staying here in the country, okay? There's a new report out from the Center for Immigration Studies that shows and demonstrates that 47% of non-citizen homes with children who are under 6 years of age are on SNAP, the SNAP program, and WIC assistance, which stands for Women's, Infants, and Children Assistance Programs. That same report notes that many of these migrant households are headed by parents with little education, low income, so any suspension of this can be a major burden on these homes. Okay? But here's the thing. According to the report, non-citizen households account for nearly 1 in 5 of all households with young children receiving WIC or SNAP. The vast majority, 96% of young children in these households are U.S. born. So what they're essentially doing, and this is part of the problem, this is why this is such a big issue for the Republicans and for the conservatives of this country. These people came here illegally, crossed the border, under the assumption, the incorrect assumption, that as soon as they got here and dropped a baby, they would be allowed to stay because their baby would be considered a U.S. citizen. Now, keep in mind, if SCOTUS rules the way that they should, because of the way the 14th Amendment is written and was intended to be read, all of those kids are not U.S. citizens. Period. Because of the fact that they are born from illegal aliens. They have a connection to another foreign power and therefore are not American citizens by law. This is the way that it works, okay? But unfortunately, there are so many people who have misconstrued this entire thing. We went through the whole amicus brief by 24 states, attorney generals, that signed on an agreement with the president's executive order, the way that it was written. And they are right. It is correct for that. Okay? Now, all of that is wrapped around the idea that the federal government should be even in this business in the first place. It's not supposed to, because as I pointed out last night, this is not a constitutionally mandated federal government responsibility. Now, the states, absolutely. The states can do whatever the hell they want, pretty much, in terms of their state constitutions. If they want to tax, I mean, if California wants to have illegal aliens on their dole and their dime and freaking tax the shit out of their people in order to get it done, by all means, go for it. But that's not what the federal government is supposed to be doing. That's not what the federal government was designed to do. That's not what the federal government, if you follow the Constitution as written, is supposed to be doing. That's where our issue is coming up. And I'm telling you, folks, this is, if everything goes the way that it actually is supposed to go, and nobody tries to, like Chief Justice John Roberts doesn't try to do like mental backflips or anything like that to frickin' get this whole thing, taken care of. No. It must go the way that it's supposed to go. Now, all right. Where was I? Oh, yes. The study about the illegal aliens. The study further showed that about half of the non-citizens are illegal aliens, but those receiving benefits do qualify in one way or another, the report says, adding that the researchers are not alleging that the benefits are being awarded fraudulently, although I say that they are because they're not supposed to be here. Their kids are not American citizens. They shouldn't be getting anything. According to birthright citizenship, the proper interpretation of birthright citizenship. So anyway. All right. Well, before I move on, let me go ahead and hit one of these. Let's see. Talks up. Okay. Let's do 1775 coffee, because I have my coffee in the morning. I love my coffee in the morning. I love my coffee in the morning. Sorry, there was a error message that popped up. But anyway, I love my coffee in the morning, and you should too, honestly, because it helps wake you up. I mean, at least it does for me. I have it in my 16-ounce mug that says "Father like no other" from my wonderful children. And if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit has arrived. There are a small number of units available. In each unit, you're going to be getting the bold dark roast that hits hard. You're going to be getting the smooth medium roast, and you'll also be getting the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because Freedom isn't scooped with plastic. That's my personal favorite. You'll also be getting a frother that is strong enough to stir up not only your coffee, but your mother-in-law's opinions, as if she doesn't already have all of them. And you'll also be receiving a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee in gear, yours for just the low, low price of $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to the numbers 1775, the word coffee, all together, all one word. That's 1775coffee.com/studio. That / is your question mark key. /studio, STUDIO. And grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com /studio and grab your starter kit. Have the caffeine break that wakes you up like an opening barrage at Lexington, Kentucky. That was submitted by my Whiskey Warrior P1G. But anyway, go to 1775coffee.com /studio and grab your starter kit today. All right. Well, Judge Boasberg may actually be getting what's coming to him. Take a look at this. This is in the Daily Wire. The judge who blocked Trump slapped with the articles of impeachment over the Arctic frost orders. Now, you remember, I went through the whole Arctic frost thing and how Judge Boasberg subpoenaed AT&T and a few others to get phone records of people and even a business. There was a business that wasn't even in existence on January 6th. Okay? But it went ahead and he went ahead and approved those. So now he has articles of impeachment filed against him. Representative Brandon Gill of Texas filed the articles yesterday, saying in an ex post, "I just filed articles of impeachment against radical activist Judge James Boasberg. Judge Boasberg abused his power by weaponizing the judiciary against critics of the Biden administration. As part of the Arctic frost investigation, Judge Boasberg signed off on frivolous non-disclosure orders to conceal the fact that sitting U.S. senators were being surveilled." And all of those, by the way, are Republicans. Every single one of them. Not only was this action egregiously improper, it was a gross violation of the separation of powers. Judge Boasberg is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors, is unfit for office, and should be impeached. Now, considering the fact that the House is, controlled by Republicans, I honestly would believe that this will probably go through as far as the impeachment is concerned. And whether or not the removal of office actually occurs will depend on the Senate. Anyway, Gill told Fox Digital in Fox News Digital in a statement, Chief Judge Boasberg has compromised the impartiality of the judiciary and created a constitutional crisis. He is shamelessly weaponizing his power against his political opponents, including Republican members of Congress who are faithfully serving the American people within their jurisdiction. Judge Boasberg was an accomplice to the egregious Arctic frost scandal, where he equipped the Biden DOJ to spy on Republican senators. His lack of integrity makes him clearly unfit for the gavel. I am proud once again to introduce articles of impeachment against Judge Boasberg to hold him accountable for his high crimes and misdemeanors. So, yeah, there you go. We'll see. We'll see if this ends up if this ends up going anywhere. It would serve, honestly, as a shot across the bow for things like that. Well, all right, folks. Really, really quickly, we have tonight, and I still need to get a stinger for this, but we have for tonight, we have a Scott Jennings truth bomb. That's right, a Scott Jennings truth bomb. Well, he was on CNN. He was on a interview or a two-part, you know, those when they put two people up, one on each side, those interviews or whatever you call them. Anyway, with Van Jones, and well, let's just say Scott pulled out some numbers, some correct numbers. Let's take a quick listen to what this is going on with.
They're living in terror. And I think a lot of people who are going to churches and who are hearing about some of this stuff, their own workers are living in fear. I think this is not going well. I think Trump, he's identified the right problem, perhaps, when it comes to immigration, but these kind of heavy-handed solutions, I think, are not going to go well. There are people who are very, very upset about it, including Republicans.
And Scott, we're out of time. I do want to let you respond, though. Do you think?
Yeah, look, I think in the CBS survey that came out today, he had a 52% to 48% on immigration enforcement. So he was still right side up on that issue in at least that one survey. I do think it's a polarizing issue, but a lot of people realize that we weren't enforcing federal immigration law. Now we are. And, you know, there's a heavy debate going on, but I don't know anybody who voted for Donald Trump who's all that unhappy that he's essentially doing what he said he was going to do, which is simply just enforce the law. We haven't passed any new laws. He's just enforcing the ones that are on the books.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on, folks. Trump is enforcing the laws that the Biden administration, in terms of ICE, did not want to do. They were unwilling to do this. Well, folks, I've got some more truth telling. This isn't a truth bomb, but I've got some more truth telling. Folks, January 6th, and I know I shouldn't be going back to this, but I'm getting really tired of everybody. You know, at least the left has kind of sort of given up on the idea of attempting to try and get this turned into a insurrection kind of conversation. There are still those idiots and morons on the social media that still call it out. But the more information that we get about that day, the less and less it looks like it was a planned insurrection. Now, don't get me wrong. January 6th was, in some places, a riot. They did get out of hand. However, there's a bit of a underlying story to that. And that is that the instigation for the riot was not instigated by the crowd, but that it was instigated by the Capitol Police, who fired tear gas, rubber bullets, etc., into the crowd. Now we have some video of it. Now, what you're about to hear, and granted, there's not a lot of background noise here, so I'll try and converse as we go through it. But what you're going to hear and see is actual radio calls from that day and some video that shows that, well, let's just say the Capitol Police were not performing their jobs in the correct trained manner for this. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and do this. So what you're seeing right now is basically the beginning and of the video. There's at least 16 people, according to the claim here. Let me see if I can.
Okay, we need everything we got on the west side. We're getting ready to take over the entire stage.
Yeah, every available unit that can respond to the west front. Every available unit to respond to the west front to assist.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it here for just a second. So what you are seeing is you're seeing the west side, the West Diaz. There's a bunch of people out there who are protesting, who are sitting there and shaking the flags, and they're basically doing what they were doing on January 6th. And what they are showing here on this surveillance video. Now remember, there was 44,000 hours of surveillance video that was taken that day, and that the committee, the unselect committee, did not want to show all of those hours of video. In fact, they tried to let it go. I don't know where it went, but apparently this video has surfaced, and they are firing kinetic projectiles, kinetic impact projectiles, read rubber bullets, which, by the way, the proper training for this, the proper training is to fire it indirectly at targets that are below the waist. In other words, when you go through, and training officers, if you want to go and jump to the Blaze article, you can go and look. I've got the Blaze article in the show notes. It explains everything. Okay? Now, there were people like the deputy police chief, Eric Waldow, who claimed that in a U.S. Capitol Police radio dispatch that his officers were using indirect firing. Indirect fire, by the way, is bouncing one of these things off the ground. It's also not to be targeting directly for anything that is above the waist. In fact, the manufacturers of these particular projectiles state that you run the risk of potentially maiming or permanently hurting or killing somebody, even with these kinetic impact projectiles. So, by hitting Sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. The video dropped. My bad. It's coming back. Yeah. It's a problem with it's a technical issue, but anyway. Yeah, things should be coming back online here. Let me know when it comes up. It's coming. It'll slowly get there, but it's coming. All right. So anyway, as I was saying, these kinetic projectiles, they are designed to like bounce off the ground and hit people in the legs. That's what you were supposed to be, you know. Anyway, I'm gonna keep the video rolling.
Unit 6, I got a crowd fighting with officer pushing, throwing projectiles. I have given warnings about chemical munition. I need the less than lethal team positioned above me to identify the agitators and start deploying. Launch, launch, launch.
Okay, so here's the thing. You heard that. You heard that guy saying that he gave repeated warnings to the crowd to disperse or face chemical munitions. There's only one problem. This guy didn't have a bullhorn. this guy is shown in the video to not have a bullhorn. So there's other sound around that demonstrates that nobody could have heard him. Period. Nobody could have heard him on this. And so realistically, because the crowd did not hear this, and now they're getting fired upon, well, honestly, that would piss anybody off, realistically. Now, I'm going to keep playing this because it's critical for you to understand. If you watch the video at rumble.com, it's critical for you to understand that they were firing kinetic projectiles at people's heads and chests. You see in the video right there, this yellow projectile that bounces off this guy's hat. And he flinches from it. And he's holding up his head from, hand and head. Now, here's the frustration that happens shortly after this, where these people got fired upon. And they're now firing. Here's another potential victim. There's an incoming projectile. He gets hit in the back of the head, and it ricochets and fires off. And then here's another one where that same guy gets struck in the chest by a projectile. It bounces off and hits the ground. These are not projectiles that are supposed to be fired above the waist. Okay? Now here's another one. He gets hit in the head, in the face, with a projectile. He gets nailed in the face with a projectile, and he's bleeding. And then, of course, the anger continues to spread. And this is where the beginning of the riot actually happens. So, therefore, and I'm not going to continue, but this video does go on for about 15 minutes. So I highly encourage you to go and watch the video. But even just in the first few minutes that I've talked to you about, this is where the start happened. It was not due to the fact that the crowd was getting unruly. Because again, the deputy police chief claims that he had called this out and that his officers were going to be using indirect fire, that he gave repeated warnings. There's nothing to prove that the warnings were actually loud enough for anybody in the crowd to hear. Because again, he did not have a bullhorn. And no warnings could be heard on the ground level video or the U.S. Capitol Police surveillance video. There was absolutely zero warnings that were heard by the crowd. Next thing you know, they're being fired upon in an unlawful way. And by unlawful, I mean even against the manufacturer's recommendations. This crowd was essentially being attacked. And I would say this is why the rioting happened. This is why January 6th occurred. You can debate all you want, but here in video evidence, it shows that the crowd, while a little unruly, was not being told to disperse, was not being told that, hey, you're going to get, what do you call it, gas or any of this other stuff. Chemical munitions is what they call them. They're not getting any of that, and yet they got fired upon. They got fired upon. So honestly, folks, I would say that this was the instigating factor in terms of the riots. It wasn't an actual insurrection. It wasn't an actual, armed insurrection or a rebellion against the government. Yes. Was it ugly? Absolutely. Do I wish that it probably shouldn't have happened? Yes. But all of that being said, no, Trump did not instigate it. Trump was nowhere near the Capitol at the time. that this occurred. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, again, this is an expert witness, by the way, on police use of force, reviewed this January 6th surveillance video, said that firing crowd control weapons from an elevated platform into a dense crowd and striking targets above the shoulders is criminally negligent and a potentially lethal act. This guy, Stan Kephart, told Blaze News, there is a wealth of clear and convincing evidence here that the police were not trained nor equipped to move, disperse, and arrest stragglers. Instead, they adopted a punishment tactic, inflaming the crowd and resulting in injury that they are responsible for. The grenadiers who fired on the crowd from the Crow's Nest outcropping during the first hour, including training officer Shawnee Kirchhoff, Sergeant Adam Descamp, and Sergeant Gary Sprifke, Blaze News has learned. Officer Brett Sorrell stood in the Crow's Nest holding a riot shield, video showed. These people, they fired from a higher place and fired at people's faces and heads. Yeah. And by the way, the surveillance video showed that the number of protesters that were struck with deadly force by crowd control weapons in the early minutes of January 6th is much higher than what was previously known. So, yeah. Yep. So there you go. There's the potential cause of January 6th. And I'm sorry, people, it was not an insurrection. No, I'm not sorry for saying this. It was not an insurrection. It was ugly. Shouldn't have happened. But it was not instigated necessarily by the patriots that were there. All of those people who were allowed in the Capitol, the doors were opened. They didn't. There's no way that you can actually get into a magnetized door if the door is strong enough to withhold and withstand the pressure against it, which if you're doing that most of the time, it should be. Those are some seriously heavy doors. And those magnets, if they were not disengaged, would never have released. You would have seen damage on the doors. But no, they let them open. They let them in. And even when they let them in, these people were still wandering around within the ropes. This was not an insurrection. This was not any kind of I can't even call it anything other than but an insurrection. So, yeah, there's plenty of information now that this was a very bad situation. And, yeah, anyway, never should have happened the way that it did. All right. So, there you go. The more we find out about this, the more information that comes to light, the less and less and less the Democrat narrative bullshit, and yes, I did call bullshit, Democrat narrative falls apart. All right, really quickly in our final closing minutes here, the Fed has decided to cut rates for the second straight meeting. They've dropped it another 25 basis points, which basically means that the rate is going to be between 3.75 to 4.0%. Nobody really had any surprise with this because they anticipated another reduction despite inflation kind of remaining at about 3%, a little under 3%. But, there really isn't, there are other indicators that they were looking at. So, yeah. So there you go. So we have a rate cut. We'll have to see what happens. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor. If you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com. Get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, do not forget, tomorrow night is Whiskey Wednesday. I'm hoping to have special guest Becky on the program to cover what we were supposed to cover last Saturday. You don't want to miss it. So come back tomorrow night, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.